Hi everybody, this is Maya Zahira with psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, and we're here live on my channel, and we're just going to wait a couple of minutes for people to join because I got on about 2 minutes early. So just go get something to drink, get your journal, and we're going to get set up. This is our second YouTube live. We used to do Facebook Live, and we're just getting all set up. Okay, good. This is live. We're live and unfiltered, unedited. Dun, 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 dun. And I want to thank the goddess for always being interactive. I really appreciate you. So I'm going to finish making sure that I'm set up on my end, and by that time, a few more of you, I see you're all joining. That's so wonderful. Yay, today's topic is... I really appreciate you. Oops. Hang on. So I'm going to finish making sure that I'm set up on my end, and by that... Okay, we want to make sure we're not double playing. Okay. My live video was playing on my computer. Okay. Awesome sauce, everybody. I think we're officially ready to start. So good to see you all. I see Yvette and VJ and Karma Tree and Jamie L. And of course, the goddess is here. Yeah, to hear two of Maya's voice. Yeah. Okay. Let me get my notes set up. I always have notes. I was kind of laughing earlier today because I was meeting with my academy students and I did a bit of sharing and I didn't have any notes. And when I don't have notes, I ramble. So I have notes. It's important. Let me make sure I have my water, my tea, and then we'll get started. What to do if your house is haunted. Okay. Officially starting. Oh, Jamie L says, Maya, if you don't mind me saying, your voice has a healing quality to it. Always like hearing your meditations. That's wonderful. I really love getting positive feedback. Some people apologize when they give me positive feedback. They say, oh, I'm sorry, you probably don't want to hear this. But I love getting positive feedback because I don't get much. I hear from trolls, you know. And I love getting positive feedback because I'm not an ego-based person. And so the positive feedback makes me feel happy. And I want to thank you for that, Jamie L. Linda from Texas. And Linda says, Jamie L, my cats agree. Oh, that's wonderful. Wonderful. Welcome, everybody. Well, we have some important things that we're going to cover, as always. But let's start off just shouting out to everybody and reading comments and just chilling out for a minute. I need to chill out for a minute because I'm overheated and excited. I live in Arizona. I ran down to the mailboxes down the road. It's 110 degrees. So I'm like hot and very excited because guess what showed up? This says not for resale because it's the sample copy. And this is my version to make sure that everything looks good so I can give it the thumbs up to be published. This is my fourth book, Revealing the False Light Agenda. First-hand experiences with imposter entities in New Age, religion, and beyond. So, let's talk about today's date. Today's date is Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. For those of you watching the replay tomorrow, the book might be available by then. So check on Amazon. I will definitely post everywhere to, in an official capacity to let you know that it's available. But you might wake up tomorrow and find that it's totally available. So that's exciting. Quicker than I imagined. So you all are having great conversation with each other. The goddess says, I'm so proud and happy for you. This is the 4th book, and each book has been different. The writing process, this book was really intense, and you'll know when you read it, you'll know why. Especially by the time you get to the end. You'll like the end of the stories. You'll know why it was so intense. It was a very intense process. And so I was very eager to let's get it done. Let's get it out. And I wrote it in 3 months. 3 months. 3 months. It's not a huge book, but it's what you need to know. So, and that's the quickest that I've ever written a book, because that's how it was supposed to be. So I hope you love it. Let's see here. See any other comments? Okay, let's get to today's lesson. All right. So today's lesson is what to do if you live in a haunted house, if your house is haunted. And I want to be clear that this can happen to anybody. Even if you're like, well, I don't live in a haunted house, so I don't need this. Well, you never know. 10 years from now, you might accidentally. Oh, Grace, you're fine. It's okay to be late. 10 years from now, you might accidentally move into some place that has some activity, and you have to deal with it. So, or this might happen to a loved one, or you might have gone through something in the past or currently. So I'd like to invite everybody who's here live to go ahead and share where you are joining from. Let us know where you're joining from. I'm in southern Arizona, USA, where it's very hot, desert. And I'd also like you to think about if you have a really short story about any kind of paranormal situation in your home, past or present. Keeping in mind that I can't read like a pages long story. I wouldn't be able to see the whole comment. But if you type in a couple sentences, if you want to share, I think we can all learn from each other. Jamiel is, I think I'm crooked today. There we go. Jamiel is joining from Rhode Island. The goddess is joining from Massachusetts, enjoying all the hot weather until fall. JJ Jennings. Hi, my daughter had a dream this morning. There was a lady at our front door cursing our home around the 4 corners. I'm here from the Gold Coast, Australia. Oh, that's an interesting dream. I'm going to do my very best to be very mentally focused. I was noticing this morning, try to be very intentional and self-aware. I was noticing this morning that I was kind of laughing. I felt like my brain had melted because I've worked so hard on this book. And then the final publishing part of it this week, last week and this week, that I was like, oh, my brain has melted. Like, I hope I can do a decent job teaching my classes. I had an class for my paid academy earlier, and then now here with you guys. And now I'm a little bit ungrounded and excited. So I hope but thank goodness I have notes. That is going to be our saving grace today. So we'll make sure that even if it's a little scattery, even if I'm a little ungrounded because out of excitement, we'll still cover all of the important details because I'll be looking at my notes. Okay. And I encourage you to jot things down. Okay. So first, the inspiration for this class, for this free introductory info class about living in a house that's haunted. The inspiration came from a Facebook post. Actually, a Facebook post in my area. I live in a pretty small town, and there's a lot of good things about living here, but it's also hard because it's a small town. I live out in the country, outside of a small town. And so it's a small community, and not everyone's, there are some open-minded people here, but not everyone is open-minded. So I learned in the first year, I've been here for 3.5 years. The first year that I was here, I had to figure out the hard way. Okay, computer. I had to figure out the hard way that I needed to stay private. I needed to just not tell people what I do for my work. Anyway, somebody posted on one of our local share groups on Facebook that they were kind of freaking out. They were like, help, I'm living in a haunted house. I don't know what to do. And there were people that were posting things that were helpful and supportive, commenting. And then there were people posting things that were not very helpful, comments. And I didn't push the person too much. I think I made a brief comment, and I sent them a friend request, which I don't think they ever responded to. And that's fine. But I thought, you know what? If there was a video I could have sent them to at least get them started, then that would be a really good resource. So I want to just talk for a minute about why I chose this topic, and just a little bit about the why. So most of the work that I do nowadays in my academy paid program, most of the work that I do is in helping individual people who are having spiritual or unwanted spiritual, paranormal, entity, black magic issues, any or all of the above. Sometimes those issues can show up in their home, and so the coaching and the guidance is in helping them with their personal issues, with their home, and guiding people to, it's called Spiritual Empowerment Academy, because the idea is to teach and guide people. Many of you who are here live are in the academy. It's to help empower you to be able to discern and take care of these things, to learn the tools to take care of all of these things on your own. Comparatively, years ago, I used to go out physically and do house clearings for people. And I did that when I was in Kansas City for a few years. And then right when I moved to Arizona, I did a little bit of that, but I moved to the area right when COVID was happening, like right before COVID. So I did a little bit of that. And then I was like, you know what? I was so busy with working with people, with coaching people, that I let go of the house clearings. It was something that would take an entire day. And here's the thing. Even when I was doing house clearings, I would include teaching with it. Sometimes I would have like videos that I would set, that I had created, that I would send the person afterwards, and I would teach them while I was at their house. Because if it's just a mild issue, like there's just a little bit of weird energy and the house just needs a little bit of blessing, that can be done in one, like you could do that yourself. You don't need to pay someone. You could do it. But I could come out and do it, and that's fine. But if there's serious paranormal issues going on in someone's home, and I went into people's homes where there was major demonic activity, portals in the cellar, former satanic rituals that had happened on the property. I mean, like, really bad stuff happening. One house cleansing is not going to fix that. Okay? And if someone tells you that one house cleansing, so here, this is information, this is some tough love for anyone who has serious haunting issues in your house. If you are hoping to hire someone to come out for an afternoon and clear your house, and you think that that's going to fix it, I'm giving you tough love. I'm telling you the truth because I care about you. It might possibly help diminish the issue if the person is good at what they're doing. If they don't know what they're doing, which there are, I don't want to disparage any healers out there that are doing house cleansing, but sometimes there are people who are qualified to do a blessing on a home, who are called to do a major paranormal cleansing, and they don't know how to do that. And because they don't know what they're doing, they actually stir up more paranormal activity. So sometimes it can make the issue worse. But even if the person doing the house clearing is good at what they do, you have to know how to do follow-up. So the information that I'm going to give you today can either be a way that you can start to do the cleansing process on your own and see if that's enough. Maybe you don't need to hire someone. Or you can do my recommendations in addition to someone who comes out and does a house cleansing, right? So that's the why. I used to do house cleansings. I decided that I didn't want to do that anymore. I decided that I wanted to teach people how to be empowered themselves. And also the tips that I'm going to give you today will help you to keep your energy clean and clear in your home. So if you don't have any paranormal issues, you'll be able to keep all of that at bay. So you hopefully won't have any in the future. Okay. As always, this is intended to be an introductory class. It's a free class, but I always make sure to include valuable information that is going to help you. So you will leave with some step-by-step ideas on what you can do by the end of this. But honestly, now that I just finished a book, I sent my wonderful admin a message, was it yesterday? I said, I should write a book on what to do if your house is haunted, if you live in a haunted house. And she was like, that's a great idea. I don't know, like maybe later. I have something else I'm going to write next. But my point is, there's a whole book of material that could be written on this. And there's a lot of in-depth information on it in my paid program. So if you're in the paid program, post in our members only group, ask for guidance and I'll guide you where to go. We have a humongous library in there. But I will give you steps today that will be very helpful in reducing the activity. Okay? So let's give some definitions. The difference between a house blessing and a house clearing or cleansing. Clearing or cleansing, same thing. A house blessing is something that a lot of people are qualified to do. A Catholic priest can come out and do a house blessing. Someone who is a spiritual teacher or someone who does energy healing or Reiki, that sort of thing. People who do shamanic work, there's a whole variety of people who would be qualified to come out and simply bless the land and bless the house. And the benefits of a house blessing is that it does help to cleanse out any like normal negative activity, like a little bit of family chaos energy, that sort of thing. It helps to bring in good fortune and better health and just more happiness into the home. And if you're trying to sell the home and it's not selling, then one thing that some people do is they will get a house blessing, because that just helps move the energy a little bit. So that's a little bit about house blessing. A house blessing is not what you would do if you have paranormal, ghosty stuff going on in your house. Okay? So hopefully even this beginning part is going to help you, because a lot of times I noticed when I was doing house clearings in Kansas City, a lot of people were confused about who was capable, like who had the knowledge to do what they needed. So there was one moderate level house clearing that I did. It wasn't the most dangerous one that I've ever done, but the people in the home were really struggling and suffering, and they actually ended up struggling and suffering for many months longer than they needed to, because they didn't know who to call. So they called the main Reiki master of that region, but the Reiki master didn't have any training in paranormal, how to like she had training, a lot of training in Reiki, and could bless the home using Reiki, but she didn't know how. I know this person, so I know she didn't know, like she couldn't clairvoyantly see entities or discern what was going on in the home paranormally or anything like that. It turned out that the Reiki master was busy and said no anyway. But so if you are having paranormal activity, you need to look for somebody who does house clearings or cleansings. Okay. And I would also look for someone, like, just take a look at their website and try to get an idea of, are they typically working with paranormal issues? Because that's what you're looking for. Okay. Somebody who knows how to deal with paranormal stuff. That's what you need. Another option that some people choose when they're having paranormal activity, ghosts in their home, is sometimes they will choose to have paranormal investigators come into their home. Now, the problem here with having paranormal investigators into your home is that their goal is to investigate. Now, there are many paranormal investigator groups that are hybrid, where there's like one member who's a psychic who does the clearing and the rest are investigators, and that would be okay. One or more people are psychics who can do the clearing. But if it's just a straight out paranormal investigator group, their name says it all. If you're just looking to get answers and get maybe some evidence of like like they have a lot of technology that they use to measure temperature in your home and different sound frequencies and sounds, EVPs to an EVP device to pick up on any entities that are talking. So if you're looking for evidence and you're just curious, then you could go with a paranormal investigator. But if you need help with if you want to clear the issues out, paranormal investigators, often by their presence in investigating, they end up stirring up more of the paranormal activity. And I heard that from a lot of clients that I worked with in Kansas City, is that they were like, oh, I had these paranormal investigators come out. I was really hopeful because they really know their stuff, but they didn't clear anything because that's not what they do. They're investigators. They don't do clearings. Okay. So that's a little bit about, like, if you are looking to hire someone, consider what your goal is. If you want to have your house blessed, if you need to have it cleansed, or if you just want your home investigated. For a house cleansing, by the way, I didn't specify. I did sort of say you can look at their website and look at if it seems like they're used to working with paranormal. Some people will call and have a Catholic priest come out and do like a house exorcism. I had a priest come out, I don't know, a year or so ago, not for a house exorcism, but a blessing. And I'm sure every priest is different, but I was not impressed. I really appreciate that he took the time to come out, and he was a very nice man, but he just opened his book, looked down, read some prayers out of his prayer book, and then sprinkled holy water on a few places. And then he's like, okay, I'm done. And I was like, I could have done a lot more than that. So, but if you tell them that you have demons in your house, they will probably spend more time, which I didn't have demons in my house. So some people call on Catholic priests, but you can call on other types of people who do house cleansings. Okay, let's look at my notes here. Right, so if your house is haunted, a house blessing is not what you need, okay? And a paranormal investigator is not what you need, unless they are a hybrid team that has mediums, psychics that do the cleansing along with them. That's okay. Now let's get into the definition of haunting and the different kinds of things that can be happening in your home that would be an indicator. And then we'll get into some solutions, tips. But I want to read some of your comments because you've had some comments coming in. Let's see what we've got here. Okay. Give me a moment while I look through. And I'm not going to read every comment because some of you are just chatting with each other. Grace Walker says, it seems like I am fighting with something in the house. Anytime I want to change and make better energies, energies, something, not sure. I wasn't sure of the last few words. Sorry about that. Yeah, and it could be either something in your home or something attached to you. Jamie L says, my parents' home seems not good energy. When I look at it from Google Maps, if you look closely, I think there might be some haunting or something, not sure though. Yeah, and we can talk about this since you're in my group. I don't do personal readings in the free class, but for people who are in my academy, you can ask about it, and I can tune in remotely to your place. I already have some ideas that I'm getting on this, so we can definitely dive into that later. Let's see, scrolling down. Avina said, people expect a lot for a little, meaning them paying little. Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. Or even if it's not payment, but it's like they expect for decades of demonic activity in an old home. Wow, that was loud. Decades of demonic activity in an old home to be cleared in 2 hours by one person. Like, that ain't happening. Jamie L asks, can feng shui help with these issues to some degree? And I think everyone knows what feng shui is, but it's like the placement of different things to move the energy in your home. I would say that feng shui is good for helping to enrich and uplift and optimize the energy of your home. But I personally wouldn't use it to get rid of entities. But if there's like a problem area in someone's home where there's just some like weird corners and weird angles that keep creating an open portal, a doorway where entities keep coming through energetically, then that's when I might utilize some kind of feng shui cure to help with that weird energy that keeps happening, right? So it can be incorporated, but it's not the cure-all. That's a great question. The goddess says, I had an issue with helping someone cleanse and bless their homes. The negative energy was them. LOL. You have to cleanse inside and out. Yes. This is one of the reasons why eventually I shifted my focus to helping individuals, because oftentimes if there's an issue in the home, there's also an issue with the individual, and that home is just part of the issue. The goddess says, negative people usually attract negative beings. I'm going to disagree with that lovingly, because I think you're awesome. Negative beings. So yes, some negative people, it can attract. Negative people can attract negative beings, but negative entities can end up in anyone's home, even people and attached to anyone. Even people who have great energy, who have uplifted energy, even people who are XYZ religion that we think won't get entity attachments. Literally, it can happen to anyone, which is why this information is so important, because like just being a nice person won't protect you. I lived in a haunted house. When I was in my late 20s, I moved to a place, an old farmhouse, and there were a lot of ghosts, kind of neutral ghosts that were trapped there. And then there was one really evil human soul. It was not a demon, but it was a very, very, very evil human soul entity that was trapping all of the rest of the human souls there. And I was attacked by that entity. I talk about it at the beginning of my first book, Darkness Disguised as Light. And I was not dabbling with the dark arts, and I was not bad person, or I didn't have bad energy. It just happened that I made a decision to move into this place, and I didn't use my psychic abilities to double check if it was filled with entities, and I should have. So it can really happen to anybody. Sundancer says, if the home is built on ley lines, you might just have to leave. Yes, that's an important factor. If the house is built on certain energetic lines, you might have problems. You might be doing cleansings every single day, and you're kind of like trying to scoop buckets of water out of the ocean. Like, you're never going to succeed. You're going to keep scooping. Same thing with some people that I did a house clearing for in, Missouri, I think it was. this was the house where there was like major demonic activity in the cellar, and there had been satanic rituals in the cellar and human sacrifice, and it was gnarly. And if they had stayed, they would have had to engage in huge amounts of energy for a very long time of major spiritual warfare to cleanse all of this. They had small children. Like, it wasn't worth it. They moved. I thought they did the right thing by moving. So sometimes, if it's really severe, sometimes you just have to move. Okay. But if you're at the beginning of figuring out an issue, you don't have to decide. You don't have to know right away if you need to move or not. You can see if you can clear it, see how things go. Take it one step at a time. Jamie L says, maybe feng shui can be used as more of a preventative measure to shift the energy so it is less enticing to negative beings. That's true. And also it can be used as a supportive measure. If you have issues already in your home, you can use object placement and feng shui tools for optimizing and enhancing the cleansing work that you're doing. And the goddess says, I agree with that statement lovingly. Yes, that it's not just negative people that attract negative beings, of course. Jamie L says, regarding feng shui, from what you said, it sounds like more of a maintenance solution, not for serious issues. Right, but it can be used in tandem with serious issues alongside it. Okay, there we go. Sundancer says, I had a wicked haunting for a few years on the prairie in South Dakota. I am astounded at the evil visions being sent to me daily, as well as interfering in my dream space. Absolutely the darkest shit ever. Sorry you went through that. And back decades ago when I went through the spiritual warfare, the paranormal stuff at the farmhouse, the person that I consulted with, the spiritual guide that I consulted with, she said, places out in the country like that tend to be very haunted, like old farmhouses. It sounds like you were living out on the prairie. It's like all the ghosties tend to congregate in places like that for some reason. Yeah. All right. Let's get back to our lesson. Who's planning on getting the new book, Revealing the False Light Agenda? Who's planning on getting it? If I might say so, I think it's a really good book. It's, of course, each of my books is different. This book has a lot of stories in it, but you will absolutely come to a much more complete understanding about how false light entities, imposter entities, trickster entities operate by reading all these stories. And then there's a lot of step-by-step information at the end of the book. There's a big long chapter at the end. Yes, I think you will love the book. I'm very curious how, I'm very curious what the experience of reading the book will be like for people, because I lived through each of those stories, and I'll be very interested to find out what it's like for you, like secondhand reading the stories, right? Okay, back to our lesson. Just being really thorough here. I'm going to give a definition, symptoms of a haunting. And many of these you'll probably already know. But for anybody who's going through this right now, or who's watching this video later and is like, I've never even thought about a haunted house before. Like, I didn't even really believe in this stuff, and this weird stuff is happening in my home. What does this mean? So this list right here will be helpful to you. Okay. So your house is haunted, or it very well might be haunted if there's paranormal activity in your home. So you're seeing ghosts, you're seeing some kind of entities or presences or shadows. You might be seeing demons, fairies, elementals. My experience with fairies and elementals, by the way, has been positive, but it is possible that if the earth spirits on your property have been disrupted by you being there, some of them can get a little bit nasty. I am resetting my wave watch. I forgot to do that before we started. Apologies. Sending healing frequencies to myself as we are working together. Okay, so elementals, even interdimensional beings. There's something called shadow being, shadow people, shadow man, and they literally look like a shadow. The thing is with these interdimensional beings is, as a psychic, how I discern interdimensional beings from like a ghost, or just a ghost that's looking like a shadow across the room. An interdimensional being, a shadow person, is going to give you serious chills down your spine. Major creepy feeling. Okay. You might not know, you might not be able to discern, are you dealing with a ghost or a shadow person or demons or whatever. You might not be able to discern, or you might be able to. It kind of depends on how tuned in you are and how active they are. Sometimes even people who aren't super psychic, who are just a little bit sensitive, will outright see them if the house is super haunted. Okay, so it just all depends. Those of you who've been following my content for a while and who are in my academy, you know that I know a lot about a certain kind of entity called a jinn. And this is a certain type of shapeshifter entity. And one thing that I've noticed is that jinn tend to attach to people, but compared to other entities, I haven't seen very many jinn who are haunting a house. That's more of a ghost and demon and etc. kind of thing. So those of you who've heard me talk about jinn before, if you're having a lot of paranormal activity in your house, it's probably not a jinn. But if you're having a lot of issues with yourself, where you're having weird situations where it seems like there's something attached to you, jinn do tend to attach to a person. So it's probably not a jinn, although it's not impossible. If you're having paranormal activity, it's most likely some kind of ghost, neutral, or troubled, or outright evil, demons, upset earth elementals, interdimensional beings like shadow beings. Now, there's an exception to what I said about jinn. We're talking about haunted houses or haunted locations, right? If you are out in nature, especially if you're out in the desert, if you're out in the Middle East, okay? Now, jinn can be anywhere. I've worked with people all over the world who've had jinn issues. Doesn't matter if you're in the Middle East or not. But if we're talking about locations, if you're out hiking and you go into a cave in the Middle East, a dark cave, you might encounter a jinn that is living in that cave, in that natural location. So that's the exception. I rarely will see jinn who are living in a house. That's my observation. Okay. So symptoms beyond just straight out normal activity, symptoms of haunting. Let's brainstorm this. Symptoms of haunting. What are some things that you think of? Go ahead and type it in the chat, and I'll read off of my list. Cold spots in your home. Of course, you might have a draft. Sometimes people jump to a negative conclusion, or they're in denial. Like people's minds tend to go to one extreme or the other. Like they have a cold draft because there's a drafty window, and they're like, "There's a cold spot here. It must be a ghost," and all it is just like just a draft. Or there's major paranormal activity, and the person is like, "Nope, it's a draft." So we have to try to find that moderation in the middle. So a cold spot can be an indication. Lights flickering. And of course, your electrical system could be messed up, or it could be entities. Knocks and sounds in the house. You could have an old house that makes a lot of sounds because it's an old house. Maybe the water heater makes a knocking sound in the middle of the night. Maybe that's just a normal thing that it does. But knocks can be an indicator. Linda says things disappear and reappear in weird places. Yes. VJ says coldness. Absolutely. A feeling of dread or evil when you go into the space. So you feel fine when you're away, and when you come home, it's this feeling of dread or evil, or like your frequency is pulled down. Even like depression. If there's dark demonic activity in a home and the whole family leaves for the day, everybody feels fine. As soon as you come home, everything, like all of your moods are pulled down. Maybe there's arguing, and it's because the frequency is so low. Feeling of darkness. And then items that go missing, or even items that fly across the room. That can happen too. And then as far as paranormal activity, you might have apparitions where you can actually see things, whether it's energy or an actual entity forms, or there might be personal attacks, especially while people are sleeping. But it can also happen when you're awake. So in bed, feeling like something is pressing down on you, or even getting some people in an extreme haunting will get beat up at night by an unseen force. That's an extreme case. So let's talk about haunting versus personal entity attachment. So I mentioned that earlier. A haunting is when when the main issue, the main paranormal / entity issue is connected with the house. So that's a haunting. Personal entity attachment, if there's an entity attached to a person, that means that no matter where the person goes or no matter where they move to, that entity is with them. The entity might hang out in the house when the person is in the house, but the entity, the main target, is the person. In a house haunting, the entities are interested in the house, and then whoever comes and lives in the house or visits the house gets attacked. Now, sometimes there's crossover in that some people who are entity-free move into a house that's haunted, and then some of the entities attach to the living people, and then the people move to get away from the haunting, but some or all of the entities follow them because now the entities are attached to the people. So it can get a little tricky. Okay, do we have any stories that we want to share today? Happy to share any stories. And let me get a quick drink break. Comments, questions? So I'm going to talk about some causes of these issues, and then we'll get into 3 basic solutions to help get you started or to prevent these issues. Okay. So before we get into that, just want to reference a couple of things that will be further resources for you, because it would be unrealistic to expect a full, complete course on everything you need to know about how to clear entities out of a space, out of a home, or off of yourself in a free 1 hour or hour and a half class. So I want to give you, I am going to give you some tips on what to do. You're going to get that today. But if you want a broader scope and more information, I'm going to also refer you to my second book, the Psychicattack Sourcebook. The Psychicattack Sourcebook. This is a great book if you are dealing with personal entity attachment, you or a loved one. But the tools will also help you. There's a lot of tools in the final chapter that will also help you to cleanse your home. You can use all of those tools for cleansing your space as well. Okay, so that's the Psychicattack Sourcebook. And then for people who need more in-depth support and guidance with me, and you need me to remotely, long distance, psychically view your space, your home, or your own energy field to help you get to the bottom of things and help you with all of the steps for clearing and becoming empowered with whatever the issue is, then you would probably want to consider my 12-month paid program, which is Spiritual Empowerment Academy. You can find information about that at psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, and then click on Work with Maya. Okay, so causes of hauntings. First, let's read the goddess's comment. Do you know about hauntings from toxic partners who still attempt to invade your life spiritually? Okay, so that would be really a personal psychic attack. The toxic partner is there either intentionally or unintentionally, because I don't know your whole story here. They're intentionally or unintentionally sending negative energy that is coming into your space. So that's more of a personal issue rather than, it's not an issue that came with the house. Yes. So for someone who had that kind of issue, I would be recommending a lot of personal cleansing first and shoring up their energy field. There's methods that I teach in the academy. There's some basics in the Psychicattack Sourcebook on how to do all of this as well. That's very, I think it's like $15 or some $17 or something for the book. And then the secondary thing that you'd work on is the house with an issue like that. Yep. The goddess is saying, that's something I've been cleansing for a while and I see progress. I would love tips. So again, without knowing all of your situation, and I don't do personal readings on the free classes, but I would say that if you were in my academy, I would make sure that you are doing all of the different steps for personal cleansing, and then also looking at root causes. So are there any energetic, spiritual root causes? For example, here's an example of a root cause. If you have had one or more past lives with this past partner, then that could be a doorway, an energetic doorway that is allowing that person to still have access to you energetically. So it's important to do some clearing work on clearing your past lives with that person, so that that's not a way that they can still get to you. So we do in the academy, like the approach that I have with my work, and this is just a good general thing for everyone to know, that with any kind of spiritual cleansing, with any kind of issue that you're having, especially personal rather than location, house, any kind of black magic, psychic attack, paranormal, entity attachments, all of that, you want to do personal cleansing, spiritual cleansing every day, strengthening your energy. So clearing your energy, strengthening your energy, grounding, and then also working on root causes like past lives, ancestral curses, that sort of thing. And then trauma, even trauma in your current lifetime, addressing trauma in your current lifetime, because all of those things, past lives, ancestral issues, trauma in your current lifetime, and also addictions, all of that can create doorways where it's easier for these issues to keep coming in. So we address all of it. We do the personal cleansing, we do the spiritual empowerment, shoring up your energy field, shoring up your personal power, and also working on root causes. Yaz says, I want to fully clear any past life regressions that I may have during the Lionsgate portal week. Yeah, definitely good to do some deep work this week. Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about causes, some causes of haunting in your house. If your house was built on a burial grounds of any culture, burial grounds, or if it's a location where there was a great deal of war, death, suffering, genocide, plague, if there was a fire at that location and everyone got burned alive. I mean, if there was horrific things that happened at that location, then there would be a higher incidence of hauntings for any structures that are built in that place. If there was dark/occult activity that took place in that home, in that structure, or if there was a previous structure there that was torn down or burned down and then a new structure was built, but at some point at that location there was dark/occult activity, could have been satanic worship, but there's a lot of flavors of dark occult activity. Not all, just contrary to what some of my reviewers say, I'm not against all occult activity, but dark occult, this calling on dark entities, is problematic. And that is going to tend to cause hauntings in that area later. A location that has had murder or suicide, those kinds of things. So the murder and suicide, this is something where more modern homes in more modern areas so it's like a newly built area, but there still might be a haunting there because there was a murder/murder suicide, that sort of thing. I already mentioned dark occult activity, satanic rituals, etc. The older homes might have the older structures. It's not always a home. It could be a bar. There's a lot of bars, a lot of old bars, old hotels have hauntings, but the older buildings tend to have more serious hauntings, but not always. Every situation is unique. Okay, so let's talk about solutions. Yaz says, it wouldn't surprise me if hundreds of years ago that there were battles or major sufferings in my neighborhood. The nickname my neighborhood gets in my area is Felony Flats. Oh, sorry to hear that. Without getting into specifics about exactly where I live, I live in southern Arizona, out in the country, but there are other houses around. And when I first moved in, I would not say that my house was haunted, but I would sit outside. I spend a lot of time in nature. I would sit outside. So when I first moved in, I would often see dark entities. Only at night, I would see dark entities move across the land. I would see these shadows moving across the land, and I would get this majorly creepy feeling. I think they were ghosts. They were not interdimensional shadow beings. These were really dark spirits. And a colleague of mine told me that in this area there have been there have been many battles. Excuse me. This is an area where a lot of Native Americans lived, obviously, southern Arizona. But there was a lot of death. There was a lot of there were many battles. There was a lot of dark activity in that regard. And so here's the thing. If you move into a place like that, and there are a lot of places like that around the planet, there's been a lot of dark, difficult human activity, many wars, lots of killing, lots of bad stuff. So when I first moved in, I spent a good 6 months of just praying and blessing the land. Blessing the land, blessing the land, blessing the land. Just sending prayers. Every day I would go outside and meditate and with my eyes open, and I would send blessings, blessings, blessings. And guess what? It took a little while, but there are no more dark spirits walking on the land out where I live. Because I'm really OCD about making sure that my energy is clean and clear, because I feel that every practitioner is responsible for the energy that they bring to work with their clients. And since I work with clients who have very difficult entity and spiritual issues, I don't want to be showing up with my own weird stuff. So I made sure that this property was totally cleansed. So it is possible to cleanse those areas, and I have had really good results with blessing rather than cleansing. I just bless the earth, bless the land, and I would go outside and just softly drum so I wouldn't bother my neighbors over there. And just I bless the land, sending blessings, sending love, healing, and it really transmuted all of that energy. So are there still dark spirits walking on the land? Probably further out, but they're not coming anywhere near where I live. So the direct area where I live is much better energy. So I just want to share that to give you inspiration that no matter where you're living, that with a steady practice, you can really raise the frequency and clear a lot of issues. So in my instance, my house wasn't haunted, but the land was having some haunting issues. I was seeing dark spirits on the land, And that was cleared. That was cleared. Okay, let's get into a couple of solutions. I have 3 solutions. Now, keep in mind, this is an introductory video. So I chose solutions that are simple and that anyone can do, but that are also very effective. Simple solutions can be very effective. They don't have to be complicated, occult rituals. You can do that if you want to, but we're not going to do that here. I have 3 solutions for you. Actually, I have a pre-solution for you. First, if you are dealing with major paranormal stuff in your house, you could first try calling around to Catholic churches and ask if there are any priests in the area that will do a home exorcism. And if that's your cup of tea. And you don't have to be Catholic. I think it's nice if you make a donation, because they are coming out and doing some service for you, but you don't have to be Catholic. So that's an idea to think about. Here are 3 things that you can personally do. The first is that you can burn frankincense resin. And if you have never heard about how to burn frankincense resin, because some of you watching this are going to be like, what's that? And the rest of you are like, oh yeah, I totally know what that is. Why is she explaining this? Frankincense comes in these little pellets. It's a dried resin, and you light the charcoal and put it in a fire-safe bowl, and then you drop the powder or the pellets onto the charcoal, and it creates a lot of smoke. Frankincense smoke cleanse. On my channel, there's actually a video somewhere about burning frankincense. It's actually the most effective tool for dealing with personal or home entity interference. So burning frankincense, but you have to do it daily. Not everyone can tolerate smoke, or it's against your rental agreement or what have you. So not everyone can do this solution, but if you can, I highly recommend it. And doing it just once isn't enough. This is especially effective if you have demonic activity and anything less than that. So ghosts, random entities, elementals, and then even nasty demons. Burning frankincense is going to act as a deterrent. So, and then the more smoke, the better. Be aware of any pets or children that level of smoke might not be good for them, so they might need to leave or something like that. So keep that in mind, and also keep fire safety in mind as well. A lot of people will say, well, I can't do the smoke. Can I just use some essential oils? You can make a spray, but of water and frankincense, but it's not going to have, like if you're dealing with demons in your home, essential oil spray is great for, like, if you have empath sensitivity, or you're just trying to like have an aura cleansing spray to help you feel better. It's not going to clear demons out of your basement. It's just not. That's just how that works. But use that tool, use the smoke cleansing if you're able to. But there's other steps if you can't do the smoke. Second solution is certain kinds of music. So on YouTube, there is music that is specifically for exorcism. So you can look it up. There's exorcism music. There's a certain track that I really like that's Gregorian chant exorcism music 12 hours. And if you type that into YouTube, you'll probably find a few choices. And it's helpful if you are signed up so you don't get ads in the middle of it, but whatever works for you. Depending on the type of issue that you're having, you might not need exorcism music. You might just want energy clearing music. So you can type in solfeggio, SOLFEGGIO, healing music, and you'll find different types of frequencies that are good for different things. And then you can also alternate. You can have exorcism music playing sometimes, and then the more uplifting energy healing music at other times, or different music in different rooms. What I've done before is I will set up a device and I'll just be playing it in a room, even if I'm not in there. And it's just doing hours of clearing. And this music, like the exorcism music, I've literally had entities get so pissed off and yell, "Turn that off! Turn that music off!" I tell that story in my new book on falselight. There's a story that I'm using exorcism music, and the entity couldn't attack me because I was playing this music. So it's very powerful. So don't worry if you can't do the smoke cleanse. You can at least do the exorcism music. And if you're getting attacked at night, you can play the music at night, all night long. Especially if you have the ad-free version, right? Another thing that you can do, this is more for personal protection if you're having haunting in your home, is using salt. So you can take salt baths, which is going to help clear and clean your energy field. So if there's something in the house that's trying to attach to your energy, every time you take a salt bath, it pops that energy cord or pops that entity off of you, so it's not able to attach. It cleanses your energy. And then the other thing that you can do with salt, our third method is salt, is you can put salt in your bed. If you're getting attacked, if you're living in a paranormally infested home, you're getting attacked at night, or even if it's that your home isn't infested, but you are getting attacked, it's more connected with you personally. It doesn't matter. Either way, all of these methods will be helpful for you. All of these. House haunting, personal haunting, doesn't matter. Salt in your bed. So you can, what I do is I take an empty pillowcase and I pour salt in that, and then I fold it over and I put that under my pillow. So I have salt. You can take like a sachet bag, a cotton bag, and put salt in that, put that under your pillow. And then if you're being majorly attacked at night, you can take your fitted sheet off, pour salt all over the mattress or the mattress pad, put your fitted sheet back on, and then you're laying on salt when you're sleeping. And the salt disengages, it disempowers entities. So that's yet another thing that's going to help protect you while you're sleeping. But if you're getting attacked by an entity or entities at night, I would burn frankincense if you can before you go to sleep. And then I would have exorcism music playing, and I would sleep on salt. That's going to help a lot. Okay? So if you're looking for a full daily routine, then you'll find that in the Psychic Attack Sourcebook, and an even more all-encompassing routine will be in Spiritual Empowerment Academy that you can find at psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. So we're going to wrap up in a little bit, but let's read any other questions. The goddess says, I give me and my son salt baths all the time. I love these tips. Excellent. Yeah, those are great. VJ says, what about sounds such as drums, rattles, renas, tuning forks? That's great. So you can definitely use that for cleansing your home. My purpose in that three-pronged list was to have three simple methods, but that's definitely not, the list that I gave you is not an all-encompassing list that includes everything. There are many other things that I didn't include that you can do for house cleansings. There's many things I left out. This is just to help you get started. So yes, VJ, you can walk around your house, play drums, rattles, tuning forks, etc., to clear your own energy or the energy of your space. Absolutely. And you could do that. And then if you're having issues still, one of the things I like about pre-recorded music that I was mentioning is that you can play it for many, many, many hours, like while you're sleeping. But you could go around and do a drum cleansing and then tuning forks with certain solfeggio frequencies for healing the space. But you can't do that all night long while you're sleeping. So you could do that during the day, take some time, do some sound cleansing in your space, and then at night have some music playing. Okay. Sundancer says, I used salt and it worked great. Okay, I'm not going to answer all the questions because they're not necessarily about haunting, but I appreciate it. Sundancer says, I used to sleep with a huge bar of selenite under my pillow. That worked well. I don't use anything anymore except my verbal clearing before I sleep. I do verbal clearing before I go to sleep, and I have found that the repetition of doing it every night really puts that information in the energetic information field, so that and we were talking in my academy about this, that when I wake up in the morning, first thing that I see when I open my eyes, and I'm not fully awake yet, but my clairvoyant vision is really wide open, I see the energy grids, the protective energy grids that I've set. That's the first thing that I see when I open my eyes. And that's from verbal declaration and verbal process, verbal clearing before I go to sleep. Just doing it every night, even if it's quickly, just a couple minutes. So doing something once tends to have less effect, and then doing it regularly has more effect. And Sundancer, you bring up a good point, which is using crystals and gemstones for protection. They are a great add-on. So if someone's being attacked by an entity, let's say, a crystal of some kind by itself is probably not going to be enough to stop that situation or clear that situation, but it can be an added protection. Yes. And VJ says the drumming, etc., is what she does during moon ceremonies, which is perfect. That's perfect. Truth Over Comfortable Lies, I love that name, says, can these methods help with entity attachments or partial possession? Thank you for asking that. I will reiterate again that all of these methods do help with entity attachment, partial and full possessions. Frankincense, daily. Exorcism or other energy clearing music, salt baths, for sure. And then if you're being actively attacked, then the salt in the bed, if you're being attacked while you're in bed. But if you have entity attached to you, the salt baths, each time you take a salt bath, it weakens that entity's attachment to you. So all of these methods that we've talked about today are your go-to Like they are your standards for pretty much everything. And not just the entity issues that you mentioned, Truth, but people who are watching this who are dealing with psychic attack, black magic, that sort of thing. All of these tried and true methods will help with that too. And what I like about these methods that I mentioned earlier is that they are simple. You don't have to have special secret occult knowledge of complicated rituals. And if you do have that knowledge, fantastic, but you don't have to have that to use these tools. Frankincense, smoke cleansing, exorcism or other energy clearing music, salt baths, salt spray in your aura, salt in your bed. Okay. VJ says for her moon ceremonies, combinations of different sounds and smudge with frankincense. That's perfect. And that's great that you do it at different moon cycles so that it's like doing a regular cleansing process is going to help keep your energy and the energy of your home clean and clear. The goddess says, I had become haunted once due to my blood. I have been researching these things and why it happened. That might be a good side topic sometime. You're welcome, Truth over Comfortable Lies. And Truth also says, for some reason when I've used sage, it has amplified bad energies. So this gets into kind of new age myths about spiritual protection. First of all, New Age has culturally appropriated the use of sage from Native Americans and other indigenous peoples, and thinking that sage will clear every issue. And as you've noticed, it doesn't work for every issue. So it's important to, if you're doing some kind of a smoke cleanse, like burning dried herbs, it could be sage or something aligned with your cultural background. Maybe, I don't know, bay leaves. Maybe you're burning bay leaves or something like that. You can experiment and see how that helps. And if it makes it worse, then try something different. But what I've noticed is the resins or resins mixed with dried herbs. You can do combinations. I like to make recipes where there's a lot of things mixed together. Those can be really helpful too. I reserve those recipes for the wonderful people in my academy, but just using frankincense is going to be really powerful. Just that, even without a fancy recipe. Yes, but I'm not surprised that for you, the sage didn't work the way that you hoped. Sundancer says, excellent information, thank you. And Truth says, thanks also for the tip about salt in the bed, great suggestions. Yeah, and this stuff is like, some of these methods are so simple that I've had a few people in the past say like, oh, you just told me to put salt in my bed. Well, it works. I'm telling you, it works. I mean, you still have to work on the core root issue that made you vulnerable to that entity attack in the first place. But the salt in the bed is going to give you some relief. Okay. My book, The Psychic Attack Sourcebook, the final chapter especially, like really lays out the layers that I've talked to you about how, like I was mentioning to the goddess, about how I focus on different approaches to cleansing. So cleansing your energy daily, strengthening your energy, grounding, and different ways that you work on root causes. And it just lays that out for you in the final chapter. And VJ says about her cleansings, that is why I do it at least once a month to clear the house. I also take salt and put it around my door. So that's perfect. Doing things regularly is great for maintenance. So that's excellent. So personal maintenance and home maintenance. Yaz says, does Epsom or Himalayan salt work? In my observation, you can use any kind of salt, including the cheap table salt from the dollar store. You can put that in your bed. For baths, I like to use the nicer salt like Epsom or Himalayan salt in my bath, but literally you can use any salt. VJ says, I many times use the frankincense and the combo recipe that you provided in the academy. I'm glad you like it. That's good. Awesome. All right, I think we're about out of time here. So let me take a drink. We'll make some quick announcements. Thank you all so much for being here. Just quick announcements that every month from now on, we're meeting on YouTube Live. So we were meeting on Zoom, where we were doing Facebook Live before that. Now we're meeting on YouTube Live, and I want you to mark your calendar because I am doing this low tech. I spend a lot of time with the wonderful students in my paid academy. I focus a lot on them, and then I take 90 minutes every month and I do this free class. But I don't spend time doing high-tech stuff on YouTube. So because this is really low tech, I don't have the fancy, like some people can set up like this event ahead of time where it reminds you. So this is very low tech, but for 90 minutes, you have my full on attention. Very low tech. So what I mean is you're going to have to mark your own calendar, put a reminder in your calendar that the class is at 5:30 Pacific, and adjust for your time zone. So there are time zone websites where you can figure out what time that is for you. We do it at 5:30 Pacific in the summer months. In the winter, in November, so keep an eye out, we switch it to earlier. It'll be an hour earlier, 4:30 Pacific. So heads up on that. But we're in August right now, so for the next few months, it's going to be at 5:30 p.m. Pacific. The replay is always available. And then our next free class is going to be all about this book. This is my sample copy that I just got in the mail today, Revealing the False Light Agenda. So this is going to be our next class is going to be a book launch party, online party. So I want to encourage you to get the book. It's not a long book. You can read it in a day, or you can read it in a weekend. It's a very easy read, but an interesting read. Read the book. Then I want you to come to the YouTube Live with questions. There's a lot of stories of things that I went through. And if you're like, well, I want to know what happened with this one story that she went through. She didn't explain what happened after that. Like whatever else you want to know that I didn't tell in the book, or questions that you have about the final chapter is a ton of information about discernment of false light entities, how to clear them out, lots of information. So it's your opportunity to ask any questions about the book, any questions at all. And I'll read some sections from the book, and I'll talk about what the writing process was like for me. It's not going to be boring like how I was typing on my computer. No, I'm going to tell you about why I started writing the book was because I got attacked by someone's false light entity. And I was like, enough. This stuff is so unnecessary. And if people knew about it ahead of time, I wasn't mad about me getting attacked, but about this person was going through this unnecessary horrific situation. And if they had known from the start about false light entities, maybe they would have never gotten hooked into it in the first place. So I'll tell you more about the behind the scenes of writing the book, why I wrote it, and I'll be very interested to hear about what it was like for you to read the stories. And so we're going to have a book launch party next month. Even if you never got around to reading the book, still come. You'll learn a lot. Okay? So let's read some comments and then we'll finish off for the night. Yeah, says, even Morton salt, the cheap salt you're most likely speaking of. Yes, like Morton salt from the grocery store, or even at the dollar store, they have the like cheaper brand that's even cheaper than Morton salt. Even that works. That's actually what I use under my pillow. Dollar store salt. The goddess says, thank you, VJ. Thank you, Carol. As always, thank you so much. Hi, Carol. Yeah, says, YouTube Live is a better social media platform than the others. Yes, you know what? Those other ones were good for a while. Now this is better. This is better now. Linda says, thank you, Maya. Great info as always. Linda, I saw that you reviewed my third book on Amazon, The Dark Side of Spiritual Healers, and I want to thank you for that review. Thank you for that. Really appreciate that. VJ says, when is the hard book available on Amazon? Good question. So before I got on the YouTube Live, I clicked, because I'm self-published on Amazon. So behind the scenes, I clicked publish. I clicked the publish button and it said, congratulations. Your book has now been submitted for review. This may take up to 72 hours. So it could be that I get off of the live and there's an email saying that the book is available, or it might be tomorrow morning. Or I remember with the last few books, it did not take 72 hours. Like by the next day, it was available. So check tonight, check tomorrow, go on Amazon and type in Maya Zahira books. And this is Revealing the False Light Agenda. And then leave a review, because as soon as it's available, there's going to be 0 reviews on there, and people are hesitant to buy books when there's no reviews. So leave a good review, please, so that other people like you, other wonderful people like you, will be able to find the book and be helped by the information. So in the past, when I self-published, I scheduled a date ahead of time, like I'm going to do it on the 1st of next month. This time, I'm like, I want to get it out as soon as possible. Let's do it right now, right now, right now. So I was so excited when the proof copy came and I saw that everything was fine, because I was like, I don't want to wait another week. I want to do it. Let's do it. I want to get it out in the world. And Truth Over Comfortable Lies says, hoping you do a live soon about targeted individuals, especially ones since birth. Truth, look on my YouTube channel and type in targeted individuals, or targeted individual without an S. I forget. There's literally a video, a 90-minute class that we did a few months ago where I talked specifically about that topic. So you'll find it. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Carol. Yay, book launch party. Yay. Thanks so much, everybody, and have a wonderful evening. The replay of this will be available whenever, like in a few minutes, whenever YouTube does its processing. So I will see you guys. And now that I'm done writing, I will be more active on YouTube. I promise. So I'll do a mini video next week. I have a very special topic, different than my book. Very special, interesting topic I'm going to be doing next week. So stay tuned for that. And I'll be doing a little mini video each week. So I'll see you all on the channel. Thanks a lot. I can't figure out how to turn it off. You guys have a great night. Bye.